Good evening, friends, and welcome to this Anand Memorial Lecture. It's been 5 years since that fateful January morning when we lost Anand from amidst us. The initial gloom and despair is gradually replaced by the irreversibility of the act. And then the second realization sinks in, and that is that we can't do anything about it. All that we can do is probably pick up the good things from that person's life and try and imbibe it in our lives. And one thing which Anand always did was he never wasted any opportunity to learn from the masters. And that's why this series, Lessons from the Masters, on the 1st of January every year. Before we proceed with our guest speaker for today, I'll request Tushar to quickly run through a PPT of Anand's memories. Tushar.
Yeah, Rajesh, thank you so much. Can the host enable me to share a small PowerPoint? Okay. So Anand is around and Anand will remain around. So quickly, without wasting much time, uh, we always write about Anand as Anand from 21st July 1962 to forever. And as he always said, friends are the family that we get to choose. He started his journey with us from GS Medical College in 1981. And then we had a great batch from BJ Wadia Hospital for Children. He went on to make Anand Hospital, which was cherished by everybody, not only in Jogeshwari, but all over Mumbai. He took care of people with modest resources. He learned how to manage people with limited resources. You can see here he made friends which were happy with him, and we remember him still. He had this funny bone in himself where he would say, never raise your hand on your kids, simply because it leaves your groin unprotected. And he would say, insanity is hereditary because you get it from your kids. It's just the other way around where genetic works. And his favorite character, Baburao Ganpatrao Apte from Hera Fairy, Samir and me, we remember and we try to enact it every single time that we talk about each other. His famous line on counseling was, पहले मेरे को ये समझा कि उसको समझाना क्या है. On a serious note, it actually meant that unless you realize what the problem is, you can't really offer a solution. And philosophically, he always would say, कफन की जेब नहीं होती. Whatever you make here, whatever you learn here, you are going to leave it behind. So just like Anand, if you leave behind good things, then your life is well lived. जिंदगी बड़ी होनी चाहिए, लंबी नहीं. And remembering a well-lived life, Anand metamorphosized himself with mentor Amdekar sir. He had his pals from Pals Group. He was a great organizer, worked very hard with the GEM course, and he was a frequent flyer, and Preeti would bear witness to that. He made an awesome project with Dr. Savar Agarwal, Rajesh, Amdekar sir, and Khare sir. He also was very much a part of Steer Group. He was an eternal figure at PG clinics at Sion Hospital. We remember him ever so often. And again, one of his famous lines there were, if you want to pass in the first attempt, come forward and examine the patient. He joined SRCC Children's Hospital when it was started as a consultant. He got not only his first oration at Mangalore, but he also got the coveted SM Merchant oration. He also had many such accolades. No one knows better probably what he means as a friend. So through thick and thin, he was always there for his friends, and so were his friends. But above all, Preeti, Karan were the family, and he always kept them first. He reached certain spiritual highs. He gave priority. He made certain priorities in life, which we all must learn, and that would be a great tribute to his friendship. We started this endeavor with dranandchandelier.com. If anybody wants to read about his philosophy and some of his great talks, please log in and read. As Samir says, Anand never dies. So I will hand over with this to Ambekar sir to take this forward, and then Dr. Samir. Thank you for the opportunity to remember and talk, Anand.
I think, friends, Anand's name and Anand's life is always in our memory perpetually. But I must say that it comes actively alive, almost chasing us, particularly when we meet on every Thursday evening at Sion Hospital. He would be the first to arrive there directly from SRCC, and I can visualize him every Thursday evening very actively interacting and taking the whole debate to a very high level. And anytime there was any controversy, he would be right there with his technology and sorting out what was the right thing about it. I think we cannot erase those memories at all. And it's not only the 1st January, but every now and then when we travel so often for steer programs, grand round programs, each time we go now, every time his memory haunts us a great deal. And I hope wherever he is all fine. He is as jolly as he was here, and he must be making friends everywhere he is. I wish him a very, very safe place to lie on permanently. And I'm sure he realizes how many friends he has on this earth who remember him every day. Thank you very much.
Samir.
Dr. Upendra Kinzavadekar, the IIT president, immediate past president is here. Upendra, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you so much, Samir. Respected Ambekar sir, Dr. Rajagopal sir, Dr. Tushar, Samir, and all of us, Anand's very dear friends, as well as fan club, the students, everybody, those who have benefited. First of all, a very happy new year to all of you. And it's really, all of us feel great about welcoming the new year. At the same time, none of us can ever forget, ever smiling, our dear friend, Mr. Dr. Anand Chandile, whom we miss on every 1st January. And not only that, as Sir said, Thursday clinics, wherever we discuss, we talk about academics, we miss Anand. So it's a great opportunity, and it's a great thing which has been started by his friends, particularly Tushar and Samir and everybody, that every year after year on 1st January, have a great oration, we can call it, in the name of Anand. And the speakers are chosen, which are absolutely befitting. Not only they are Anand's dear friends, but also we would love to listen to them. So today we have Dr. Khupchandani sir. So let's remember Anand forever. Of course, none of us are ever going to forget it, but also carry his legacy in whatever format that we can. And we are trying to do that. And Central IP also has been doing the same. So we all love you, Anand. You are always there with us, and we always love you. Thank you so much, Samir, for arranging this meet and, of course, giving us the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And as all of you have mentioned, some people are immortal by their presence in our life, whether they are around physically or not. And proof of that is when we talk about him, there's always some joke that comes in mind or some joke that he has cracked. And when Tushar Bhai was saying that Anand started a hospital in Jogeshwari, which was quite famous, not just in Jogeshwari, but even outside Jogeshwari, rest of Mumbai. Tushar, I remembered what Anand would have said. My hospital is world famous in Jogeshwari. So these were the things that are, hallmark of our dear friend who will never be out of our life as long as we are there. And 3 things I thought that really, really marked him to all of us who are his, as his Upendra said, fan club and who remember him. One is, of course, the fact that he was one of the most human beings that could have ever known. And all of us know that about him. The second thing was his passion for knowledge, for teaching, and for pediatrics that he loved to imbibe and share with everybody. And the third thing, of course, as we said, was his sense of humor. And that is something that keeps us even smiling on even on this day when we think about him. And when we looked at the guest today for today's talk, we wanted to have somebody who kind of fulfills all these three criterias. And no, I mean, it would be a cliche to say that Dr. Raju Kupchandani needs no introduction. That's true. That's a cliche. But the topic that he has taken again today is a single word called midstream. And therein lies some humor, I'm sure, as we'll come to it. But before that, if I would just like to take a minute to say that all of us know Dr. Kupchandani very well. He's a sectional head and senior consultant of pediatrics and pediatric rheumatology at the SRCC Children's Hospital, where he was a colleague of Dr. Anand. And I must say that I so frequently remember Anand saying, अरे वो कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है ना, तू राजू के पास भेज, वो उसको कैसे भी करके उसका सोच समझ के उसका डायग्नोसिस निकाल के अपने को बताएगा. So that is, I have couple of times that I have had this with Anand. So again, very happy to have Dr. Kupchandani here, who's also attached to HN Reliance Breach Candy. We all know he's a founder of Pediatric Rheumatology Society. He has had 9 orations to his credit, taught almost all across the world, member of 9 international consensus groups. He has written more than 160 articles, plus book chapters, plus books. He loves to travel. Old Hindi songs are his favorite. He's now learning to play the ukulele. He loves to research novel teaching formats. And I'm sure all of us remember that ATM, Asthma Training Module, Hindu is here as well, smiling, longest running program of IAP. He has taught or influenced 11 of his mentees to pursue pediatric rheumatology. He loves to dissect rare disease to the end. And if we may add a bit of criticism, if at all, obsessive for detail and perceived as a lone wolf. And he said that, Samir, don't just say good things about me, say some things which are not so good at all. So, and well, one option is we can ask Dr. Mrs. Kupchandani to do that bit, but we'll cut to the fact that I know for a fact that he's a terrible dancer, because when it was his son's marriage, he had asked me to try and help him out, and it was quite a disaster. But that's where it is. And his topic today is a very interesting topic called midstream. I always thought that Dr. Raju Kupchandani was a brilliant pediatrician, a brilliant pediatric pulmonologist earlier, and now a pediatric rheumatologist. But I don't know where his interest in nephrology or urology is coming from, because I know what all of us associate the word midstream with. To solve this mystery for us, I now invite everybody's favorite Dr. Raju Kupchandani to deliver lessons from the masters in memory of Dr. Anand Shandelia. Dr. Kupchandani, sir, over to you.
Samir, you got me spellbound. Thank you so much for that most generous introduction. I'm going to take approximately 20 seconds to share screen, during which I will stop video, and I assume that I have screen sharing permissions. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Dr. Kupchandani.
Yes.
Yes, sir, without the notes. So, perfect.
Yes. So, just give me 30 seconds, please. Let me. And you can see me on video. Somewhere lost in that maze of about whoever is on the screen right now. Okay. So long as you can see the screen and hear my voice, my face is not my fortune, so that's perfectly fine. How are people known or remembered? This is the first fact. And basically, we are clearly aware of the word KAP as in KAP studies. But in the case of Anand, we have to say knowledge, absolutely abreast with everything, his very liked attitude. And that's the reason we are gathering to celebrate today his life rather than mourn his passing away. And Preeti and Karan, you must be so very proud of your husband and father respectively. that his friends still so remember him so very fondly.
Yes, thank you.
So, when I was given this topic just barely a few weeks ago, to start with, I was not very sure whether I'd be able to pull a rabbit out of my hat so very soon, since I had just about 2 weeks. But I thought midstreaming is a good topic, given that I am now 68 years of age, and people may think that I need to see a urologist for some prostatic issues. But this midstreaming is far from prostatic issues, and fortunately, my stream still remains reasonably good, not needing any Euroflow studies. Let me try and give you a most inspirational story. At least I think it's inspirational. And before I proceed further, let me tell you that some of the points that I will make in this entire presentation, I would like to make a disclaimer. And that is that these are some of my views. Also, somebody listening may say, come on now, don't come and, preach to the pulpit. We've done this before. So what are you telling us? We've already done it. To them, I say, I'm sorry, but I'm just expressing a viewpoint. And some of these points may be relevant to some of the audience. And therefore, let me go back to at least this story which has inspired me. Sometime in 88, 89, there was a young man who came into my life. He had qualified himself in an alternative system of medicine, was practicing as a GP very close to Kasturba Hospital. One of my classmates, who was a very busy general practitioner in Ghatkopar, referred him to me saying that he wants to work as an observer in a pediatric clinic because he has a sizable pediatric population who visits his clinic. This gentleman came and was non-separable for 6 years, would take rounds with me at Kasturba Hospital because his clinic was just across. Suddenly, two things happened that changed his life. The first thing that happened was that entire basti where he used to practice got taken over by a property developer, bringing his practice down to almost zero in a span of a year. And then our good friend Kasab came and lodged himself in Arthur Road jail, where the kind of roadblocks even further decimated his already reduced practice. So one day I see a very depressed human being walking in and wondering what he should do with life now. I really didn't know what to offer him, and at that stage the only thing I could think about was that I used to advise a pharmaceutical company, and I said to him that, look, would you like to take some sort of a job in this pharma company? And he said, look, right now everything works for me. Now the company offered him a job on the field to go and meet people like a medical rep. He took the job, but in 6 months hated every minute of it, left the job and disappeared from my life for approximately 7 or 8 years. One day, suddenly the bell rings at home, and I open the door to see a completely beefed up guy, biceps, chest, everything. I said, hey, what have you been doing? Pumping iron? He says, you know what? I've reinvented myself as a personal trainer. I said, damn good. Since the last 14 or 15 years, he knocks on our door every single day because that's his routine. And my wife is one of his longest standing clients. About 2 years ago, there was a further change in him. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go back to my private practice now because I think it's important to stay diversified. But at that stage, he said, you know what? I think I'm already in my mid 50s and I need help with my financial planning. In 2 years, helped by the Sensex, today he had a smile on his face. Thanks to the multiple shifts and changes that he has been able to adapt to. And this is the midstreaming that I am going to be talking about. So, what is the ultimate professional aspiration that, if you really see, that we have in our lives? Our ultimate professional aspiration is to stay relevant during our professional life, and that too in a positive way, not by disrupting annual general meetings or doing, engaging in disruptive activities. And I can never forget that once when I was just surfing a Malayali channel on the TV, they were interviewing a very senior lawyer. And for a moment, he lapsed into English. And he said, at the end of the day, I look at four things. Were my clients happy with me? In that, even if I lose the case, will they come back to me for the next? Even if I lost the client, were my colleagues happy with me? Would they judge me to say that I did my best? If I lose both these, what about my family, that is my caregivers? And lastly, even if I lose all these three, when I put my head on the pillow, would I say that my conscience is clear that I did my very best? So, in a way, Samir, to stay relevant during professional life, I have to say thank you to you to invite me for this talk, because in that process, you've helped me to stay relevant at least for a few months more. So, midstreaming is nothing but the desire or ability to be able to change a goalpost somewhere through your professional life, and this has to be done at will. The word at will is important, not to be forced to do it by external circumstances, in that issues pertaining to health, etc. Recently, I used to interact with a brilliant pediatrician in Goa, and his clinical sense was so fantastic. But unfortunately, he got snatched away just in his mid 40s by a very terrible disease. That is not part of this definition. And midstreaming is not defined by the stage in our career. You could midstream at any stage, but it is defined by the fact that there is a need to stay relevant and a need to stay secure. Therefore, as we proceed in our professional journeys, there is always two options ahead of us. Shifting, I say, versus drifting, but I apologize to think who feel that there is no need to shift. You could very well be on the straight and narrow and continue to enjoy the professional ride all through. But this does not apply to those who somewhere along the way seek change or start feeling burnout and say that they need to shift tracks a bit. So whenever we set goals as we start our careers. We set usually, and it's a wise thing to set these goals, a financial goal, a professional goal, and a personal goal. And believe you me, and I don't have to literally take goals to Newcastle when I say, because most of the people who I saw on the screen have witnessed these issues already, that it becomes quite a tightrope to walk when you have to try and see that you get all these three goals in equal measure. And not only that, what often happens is that professional goals may or may not lead to financial goals. But on the other hand, what you may end up doing is that financial ambitions may hinder your professional aspirations. And all along this, while you are trying to achieve either your professional or financial goals, you are going to witness disruptors or changes. Some may be changes, some may be disruptors. And let me share with you, if I was just sitting with my coffee last Sunday, and what are these disruptors or changes that I can recall? We quickly moved from paper to laptop. And there was a bunch of people, some of our seniors, who said, "Oh, ये लैपटॉप मेरे को नहीं समझता है." Quite quickly, that group of people found things difficult to move on in the mainstream. We saw trunk calls move to telemedicine. Our shift to telemedicine, though, was a forced shift. It was not a shift that could have happened as early as 2002, when the potential was recognized. It was forced by COVID. We noticed that the small nursing home concept was slowly going away, and pediatrics needed more and more of outpatient ambulatory care. As Google came in and search became easy to patients and parents alike, eminence-based medicine shifted to evidence-based medicine. Conferences do not need brick and mortar anymore. In fact, it's now happens online, and therefore I use the term bricks to clicks. We are now encircled by increasing legal concerns, and therefore you are very guarded in what you talk and how you communicate. We have seen drugs vanish. We have seen diseases vanish. So many drugs, if you went back to your old Satoskar, remember using emetine for amoebiasis. Where is it now? God knows. And today you have path-breaking drugs. Last week we read about sickle cell gene modifying therapy and back-breaking drugs. Today your situations like your COVID-19, HIV, etc. We moved from trust hospitals, which often used to be much more benevolent and benign, because there would be some benefactor paying for it, to listed corporate hospitals where obtaining funds to treat patients is a lot more difficult. And tongue in cheek, I must say, from GPay to GPay, where the entire demonetization changed the type of cash flow and thereby impacted our spending capacities to some extent. Imaging, instrumentation, and obviously global pandemics. But to those who are afraid of innovation, one of my friends has written this line, and he is the person who's probably going to be helping me redefine my software. He writes, AI will not replace physicians. Physicians who use AI will replace those who do not. So the target audience for this talk, arguably coming a bit late in the story, is the 25 to 35-year-old, if they are there, to quickly gaze into the crystal ball. To the 35 to 50-year-old, you still have options to pivot quickly. And the person who's 50 plus, well, for you, age can still be just a number and you could very well make the shift. Look at the professional career of a pediatrician, and I am reminded of a hyperparathyroid state. Let us imagine that his span is approximately 40 years. Between 30 and 40, he is taking loans. Between 40 and 50, he is grown, paying back those loans. Between 50 and 60, he's educating his children or getting them married. And between 60 and 70, he starts having health concerns. And therefore, what is my view of the professional span? Pardon me for a minute. And now again, please, a disclaimer, this is my view, and I will tell you in some areas where I may have gone wrong and make candid confessions. So what I have tried to do is to plot work versus age. We all start our lives working between 12 and 14 hours a day. Looking backward in hindsight, I do feel that somewhere at age 60, this should start coming downwards to perhaps somewhere around 8 hours, around age 65 to somewhere around maybe 6 hours, and somewhere around 70 to approximately 4 hours. What you see as the firm line is what is perhaps ideal, but look at the dotted lines like you would look at an oxygen dissociation curve. The more you shift it to the left, the happier you are in that your transition is coming earlier. Let me give you my example. I started practice around 28 or 30, and by 40 or 45, I truly started feeling burnout. Running between cesarean sections, deliveries, night calls, house visits, general pediatrics, vaccines, whatever, I just felt that this would not be able to sustain me for 15 or 20 years more. So my second peak came as pediatric rheumatology. And how that happened is a story which I'll tell you in a short while. What I am just trying to advocate through this slide for those people who feel that they need challenge or they feel that there is some degree of boredom creeping in, a second peaking does become relevant at some point. And the third is income. You would note that somewhere between 40 and 50, you'll see the maximum graph of your income growing up. Perhaps after 50, your income may continue to increase, but that's your period of maximum expense. Your kids are getting educated, your children are getting married, and then finally, your income starts reducing. Please note, this is not your net worth. That's a different story altogether. I'm talking about net usable income at the end of the month when you come back and see what you've accumulated in the bank at the end of the month. So typically, I'm trying to now put all these three graphs one upon the other. And what am I trying to see? I'd like to see that my professional satisfaction continues at least till 70 and memories linger after that. I may continue to work a little bit, potter around, may not be, but there has to be some alternative source of income which keeps flowing in along the way, even though my working hours may have reduced. Now you'll ask me, look, do you practice what you preach? I will say only partly, but sometimes realization comes late or not at all. In some situations, realization came late, but I won't say not at all. In terms of the professional change, I think it was bang on time. In terms of reducing office hours, I think I was a bit late and more forced by a little personal circumstance. And in terms of getting some degree of financial literacy, I will talk in a brief moment. So when should these thoughts begin? It's most crucial to keep your eyes and ears open. And every case that you see, every experience that you have, every meeting or role model, today how many people Dr. Ambedkar must have inspired or interacted with. But he may have interacted with maybe 10,000. He may have inspired maybe 500. But how many have emulated what he has preached to them? Maybe 40 or 50. Like a Dr. Anand Shandilia, who I've coined a phrase that he was brought up in the Ambedkaresque mode. Okay, and he followed it. So every journal or newspaper you read, there is likely to be some hidden message. And it's important to keep a mental diary of that and use it as a every moment, rather than the phrase that my children have taught me, FOMO, that's the fear of missing out. And you then say, oh no, I missed it. So I come to professional midstreaming. To me, I sincerely believe that all pediatric subspecialties today in India are a sunrise opportunity. And however, today, people who are general pediatricians listening to this talk, there is a gentleman called Dr. V. Agarwal at Max Hospital in Delhi. He writes a beautiful letter in Indian Pediatric Case Report. And he says, is it a boon or a bane? And he clearly vocalizes his fears. He said, will I be relegated to just vaccines, coughs and colds? Will parents directly consult subspecialists? Will subspecialists look down upon me? But he very correctly writes himself, because I sincerely believe today that there is nobody better to get a holistic approach and to liaise with the family than their primary care pediatrician. Having said that, are there opportunities for some interests that a general pediatrician may pursue aside from his regular general pediatric practice? I gave it a careful thought and listed all these that came to me: pediatric psychiatry, dermatology. I truly believe that obesity is going to be the next epidemic. Sports medicine, polysomnography, various social initiatives, teaching, novel teaching methods, medico-legal consulting, medical writing, whether it be fact or fiction. You think about Atul Gawande today. he's one of the best-selling authors. Why can't we have one amongst our midst? Medical technology. Well, various entrepreneurial ideas. I don't have any. If I had them, I would not be talking over here. Research methodology and various administrative or advisory roles. And very fortunately, the people who I saw on the screen when I logged in, many of them are already practicing some of these, but the scope is so vast that remember that we are a country of how many billion people? We constitute 20% of the world's population. People, in fact, several youngsters come and ask me, sir, how do I select a pediatric subspecialty? And for this, I have 6 or 7 things that I like to say to them. First, most important, what do you like? Where are you likely to practice it? Now, today you cannot start a hematology oncology center in a small tehsil place which hardly has a drainage area. What is the local epidemiology? How capital intensive is this story? Will you be drowning yourself in loans if you start this? In which case, have you done some sort of cost benefit ratio analysis in terms of money? How good are you with your hand skills? Imagine me having done something that involved hand skills. That would have been a complete disaster. What is your leverage with the local community? Do you expect to get support from them? The type of specialty that you are selecting, is it going to need too many hours? And if you are going to be sacrificing your general pediatric practice, then will it be eating into it too much? And what you have selected, is it a long-term solution or a medium-term solution? But that gets answered by the fact, what is the age at which you choose to make the change? And while you are doing this, there is a very important business school concept that you must be familiar with. And this concept was actually very frequently spoken about by Warren Buffett and his colleague who recently passed away, Charlie Munger. There's something called a competitive advantage. This is a short-term story. You start something, you're off the blocks quickly, but very quickly somebody catches up with you. On the other hand, something that is more sustainable and goes on for a longer period of time. Look at Coca-Cola, for example. That secret sauce that they have has given them a competitive advantage over donkeys here. And here I thought, how do I think about a competitive advantage versus a moat in a pediatric setting? And I thought of something quite humorous. I said, let me imagine that there is a small little town and there are 4 neonatologists who move in over there. One of them quickly has a rich parenthood or a rich whoever, and he quickly manages to set up a nursing home. This is what I call competitive advantage. Soon the remaining 3 set it up and they are equalized. The 4th guy, however, was not married. He goes, marries a gynecologist. And the deliveries start happening there. He has created a moat till the fact that they are happily married. He is going to get a continuous stream of supply coming in over there. So while you are selecting, this is another important point to look at. There are always perceived risks. Will I succeed? What if I fail? Will my income drop? Yes, all these are definite likelihoods. Your time management you need to be a lot more skilled with. And if you are planning to do general pediatrics along with this, definitely you have to care and think about this very, very significantly. But like somebody said, It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So I say here it's better to have tried and failed rather than never to have tried at all. Some of them ask, should I be doing this soon after post-graduation or later in life? My perception is you win both ways. If you do it very soon after post-graduation, perhaps your opportunities are more. You don't have any commitment, chances are you may not have started your family and you are already kind of, used to dipping into your dad's bank. But on the other hand, if you start midstream, you may have family obligations which may restrict your story. So a lot depends upon your desire and your personal circumstance. Is there an opportunity in subspecialties? Look at the dismal digits we have in India today. Hematology oncology has 22, PICU there are 7, gastroenterology 4, and nephrology 3. This is all the FNBs that exist, and I therefore seriously believe that entities like the National Board, entities like the Indian College of Pediatricians is just an opportunity waiting to happen. In contrast, look at what's happening in the United States. 751 to 1445 by 2018, and look at their most favored branches: critical care, emergency medicine, and neonatology, while their least favored branches are adolescent medicine, child abuse, infectious disease, and nephrology. So I seriously believe that this is a very major opportunity for the Indian Academy of Pediatrics and the Indian College of Pediatrics. Because remember that while technology will gallop, science will trot, let not administration crawl. Let's move quick. The only speed breaker that invariably comes here is to raise funds to pay for a fellow. And I seriously believe that the regional conferences that are held, part of their profits should be kind of saved aside for encouraging fellowships in selected centers and in selected specialties to quickly ramp up the story. In the meantime, however, while all these formal methods take place, people who are deeply keen should very quickly go into prolonged observerships, online courses, mentor-mentee relationships, start reading books, self-teach. But remember that there will be nomenclature issues X years down the line. A person who's trained and qualified in a subspecialty will call himself a pediatric rheumatologist or a cardiologist or whatever, as would a person trained exclusively for a sufficient length of time. But today, my letterhead still says special interest pediatric rheumatology because I do not have that, unfortunately, the qualification behind it. Coming to the last 3 or 4 slides and on financial midstreaming. Financial midstreaming came to me rather late, I would say in my late 50s, and it came to me thanks to the fact that my daughter was already out of Harvard Business School and my son was aiming to get there, and one day, out of sheer frustration, he thrust Benjamin Graham's book into my hand and used to give me a 15-minute talk on investing every day. So, with now 2 children out of Harvard Business School and 2 son and daughter-in-law out of Harvard Business School and London Business School, I said I have to keep up with the Jones. look at the fact that we have to accept that pediatrics is always going to be paying lower than the rest. And of them, critical care and emergency medicine still pay slightly more, and that's the reason perhaps they are more commonly chosen elsewhere in United States. And they try to see that if they reduce the duration of training, does that make a difference? And the answer is no. The lifetime earning potential of pediatric physicians compared to adults will always stay lower than their adult counterparts. Many people will say, oh, I don't find time for money management. This is actually quite a myth. And I would say that there are 2 or 3 things that I have learned myself, and I'm going to share some of these facts. Keep insurance and investment always as 2 separate baskets. Never use insurance as an investment tool. ULIPs are, to my mind, please, these are again, as I said, as a disclaimer, my views. Continue to educate yourself. Fear tips and get rich schemes. The stock market is not a casino. If you are a long-term investor, mutual funds are a fair alternative, but I have my personal views on them. Always factor in for inflation-adjusted returns. I'll show you a slide in a minute. Maintain a healthy risk-reward ratio as you age. Build a growth cum dividend portfolio. Always keep between 5 and 10% in gold. Illiquid assets are often either the reason for squabbling among sibs or amongst your kids. Reduce your illiquid assets progressively. Look at it as if you are seeing your first patient every day for 20 minutes, and keep all your nominations, bills, KYCs as complete as possible. Look at inflation in India 35-year data, and you will see that at points it has touched 13%. Now imagine that if your interest at National Savings Scheme was giving you 13%, then all that you were doing was you were jumping at the same spot. That is what inflation adjusted returns really means. And remember this, very humorously put by Benjamin Franklin, the only certain things in life are death and taxes. With inflation going up, your buying power progressively reduces. And therefore, the relevance of equity markets, look at the red line down below. If you had stayed invested in a fixed deposit versus, and this is a graph that starts at 2002. Now, somewhere along the way, it may look like an atrial flutter, but don't look at the micro story. Please look at the macro picture. And I'm sure many of you already have. So in summary, friends, as I come to the end of my talk, what I'm saying is that we are all on a professional highway. You may choose that you like this road so much, it's working smoothly, it's doing everything for you. Carry on and enjoy the ride. Somewhere along the way, your landscape starts looking dull or boring to you. Think about taking a side lane or a side road. The scenery there may be much better. You may find yourself in lesser traffic as you go along. And if you find yourself in lesser traffic, you may end up enjoying the ride, though you may have different challenges along the way over there. You may have pushed your destination further, so you may run short of petrol. Make sure that your gas tank is full and your credit card fully loaded. Thank you very much. And this is something that I always firmly believe in, and I could say I've tried to do as often as possible. Create ideas which may be a line in the sand, but decisions must be set in stone. Start small, think big, and act fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was an absolutely master class, and it's absolutely a wonderful, wonderful reflection of everything that sir has just shared with us. I mean, I would rather ask Dr. Bakul Parikh, sir, are you there? Past president of Mumbai IP and National IP.
Yeah, Samir, I'm there, but
Yes,
my video is off because of bandwidth problem.
okay, just quick few words on Dr. Kupchandani's presentation, and then I'll hand it over to Dr. Sarwar for a few words, and then Dr. Satish Pandya will offer the vote of thanks.
Yeah, so listening to Raju, only single word, fantastic. And listening to his ideas of midstream, it reminds me of my own life. So I have gone through the same story. So thanks, Raju, for reminding me of what I have done. And I've been following all the steps which you have suggested in my life. And thank you very much. And I'm sure others who have listened to you will put it into practice if they are not late. Thank you very much.
Dr. Savar Agarwal.
Thank you, Samir. What I'm going to say may be slightly biased because I'm so much influenced by Raju's persona and his way of talking that it gets me every time clean bold. So a wonderful talk, a different perspective, altogether something which we will never be taught in your any conferences, any textbook, any personal interaction. So, and it matters a lot for all of us who are aging or we have already aged and growing through the same turmoil and turbulence. So all in all, a wonderful talk, very befitting to the person whose memory we are commemorating today. And I think everybody would be mighty impressed with what Raju has said today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your crisp comments, Dr. Jagdish Chinappa, Dr. Palni, and then I'll hand it over to Dr. Satish Pandya, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Raju, for that wonderful talk, as usual, covering so many aspects of how we go through our career paths and how we can deviate and how we can, after deviation, also make it look as if it is the most beautiful path taken. So thank you very much for that talk. Raju and me have played table tennis, and I've always lost to him. So I think I've learned a lot from him anyway, right from the table tennis days. And yes, what Raju says is very important, that we balance all three things. I think all Indians are governed by three goddesses: the goddess Saraswati, the goddess Lakshmi, and the goddess Parvati. So I think we all look at learning first through Saraswati, earning money through Lakshmi, and finally looking at becoming the IAP president through Parvati, or the power aspect of it. So I think Raju has stayed away from that part of the power struggles of the IAP and continued to contribute in his academics, and kept us all enthralled with his talk. Thank you very much, Raju. Wonderful hearing you again.
Thank you, Dr. Palli Raman.
Nothing more to add, sir. So as usual, wonderful from a giant and a different perspective, for particularly for the middle-aged people who are really actually bored in certain way. Others are really a different perspective. Thank you very much, sir.
Maybe
As I hand it over to
I think
Dr.
Dr. Ambedkar has switched on his video. Maybe.
I think, Raju, you have always something very, very unique to offer each time. Maybe simply an academics or even something related to life. And I was very much expecting something very different from you, very different from mostly what we ever hear. And it was wonderful to see how you kind of evolved the whole story. And when each one of us looks back, large part of it we may have followed or we may have missed, but that's really an eye-opening and wonderful thoughts. I enjoyed it, and I was looking forward for something that was going to be unique, and this midstream was excellent. Thank you very much, Raju.
hand it back to Dr. Satish Pandya, I'd just like to say that many years back, when I first met Dr. Kupchandani and started hearing his talks, I told him that he reminded me, Dr. Kupchandani, remember that?
Yeah.
Of Mr. Arun Jaitley. And I told him that your debating skills and the ability to convince and put forth things in a very calm manner are very reminiscent of Mr. Jaitley. So it is the loss of Indian politics, but the gain of Indian pediatrics that Dr. Kupchandani, you did not move that side. Over to Dr. Satish Pandya, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Samir. And now I'm in a very awkward position because I had put down some adjectives for Dr. Raju Khumdadani and his talk, and I am now exhausted because everybody else has used up those adjectives regarding his talk. Excellent talk, sir, and always a pleasure to listen to you. And over a period of so many years, we all pediatricians have been listening to you. And as Dr. Ambedkar sir said, you are always unique, and you chose a unique topic. Not many people talk about it so nicely and so smoothly, starting with a very interesting story. And you ended up with covering so many aspects of life. Not only, I think it's good for the young pediatricians, but people like us who are in 60s, we can also be in the midstream. We can start thinking about how we can shape the rest of our lives. So on behalf of the Dr. Anand Sandile Memorial Lecture Committee, I thank you, Dr. Raju Khupchandani, for giving a brilliant talk at a very short notice. I also express my sincere gratitude to Ambedkar sir for sparing his time and giving some very good insight into Dr. Anand's personality, and also making some comments about what Dr. Raju Khupchandani said. And I also thank the whole audience and all the pediatricians across the country, and some of them must have joined from across the world to listen to this brilliant talk by Dr. Raju Khupchandani. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Good night, Raju. Good night.
Thank you.
Right, sir.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Sir.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank-
Kupchandani, sir. Preeti and Karan, thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank
Preeti.
you, Dr. Raju. And I have put in a question in the chat box. You can meet me tomorrow over a coffee in the SRCC and tell me the answer. Okay? Good night.
Is Preeti still around? Perhaps signed out.
Yeah,
Sign
so
off.
they are in Vietnam. They actually joined from there. So probably she is now checked out.
No. That's perfectly.
Also, there was some problem with the YouTube streaming. So those of you who are here, I would just like to share on behalf of the organizing team that we will be sharing this recording on our website, and we will send out the link, and we'll try to, see that all of you receive the link to watch that video. The only request to you is the website which Dr. Tushar mentioned earlier, as well as this link. Please share it with your friends who may not be aware about the talk today by Dr. Kupchandani.
Yeah, we'll also be putting up on the IAP website, Rajesh, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Samir. Thanks, Tushar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
sir.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Prabhat.
Thank you.
Rajesh bhai, thank you so much. It went off
Thanks,
quite well.
Samir.
Bhai. Thanks. You spoke so well in the beginning, and that was reminiscent. And Tushar bhai, those pictures as usual, you show that